Alright, so now I'm going to show you something called a backwards reflection. So we're not using the computer today, so I'm actually going to draw this by hand and you'll be doing the same thing. So you can watch my hands over here. So basically the backwards reflection is a way to kind of step back in time a little bit, figure out what is going on for you in a situation, and how you can fix that situation in the future and also learn from it and plan and come up with some skills, right? It's also a way to figure out what your triggers are, which we'll talk about more later on, and start addressing them. So for this example, I'm going to use the same example of Bob, who we did the case study last time. So if you remember, Bob was a student who started out his day pretty well, skipped lunch, and then was messing around in class out of his seat, and ended up getting in trouble and sent to the office, right, and really mad, okay? So we're going to use that as our example to show you how this works. So in any way, backwards reflection, you're going to choose a situation where things ended up going wrong. It doesn't have to be terrible, but just something went wrong. It didn't work out the way you wanted to. So again, in this case with Bob, what didn't work out is he got sent to the office and got in trouble. So you always start by drawing the box in the lower right-hand corner, and that's how we're going to start. We're going to actually start at the end and work our way backwards, which is why it's called a backwards reflection, right? So in this box at the end, we're going to draw what happened at the end point, right? So don't try to make something fancy. This is more about just time and quickly thinking things through than it is about making anything pretty, right? So let's draw Bob, right? He's really mad. And maybe he's holding his head, and he's shaking the fists. He's so mad, right? Okay, here's Bob. So Bob in office, in trouble. Okay, so he's really mad. Let's say mad, right? All right, so that's Bob at his worst. He's really mad. He's in the office. He just had his parents called, right? But so, actually I shouldn't have said that, because what we have to do next is figure out what happened right before he got so mad in the office. Okay, so what we do is we have a little arrow, draw a new picture, new box, and in this case, let's maybe draw the admin on the phone, right, with Bob's family, right? So call home, and Bob's parents mad, right? Alright, so now he's really mad. Why? Because he got a phone call home and everything that happens before it. So then, again, we ask ourselves, what happened right before that? And again, we're talking about like right before that. So the parent call and he gets mad. So right before the parent call, right? Well, right. Bob sent to office. And the key is, it may seem weird that we're putting all these things that happen like right before each other, all these little things, but it actually helps us see the overall picture, and you'll see how that works when we finish. So, right before he was sent to the office, right, by the teacher, right, what was happening? Well, Bob was arguing, right, so he was yelling at the teacher, right, yelling back, yelling, arguing, right? So he got in a big argument with the teacher and she had enough and sent him. Okay, so we're not done yet. So now we're going to keep going. So now we're going to draw another box up here, right? And draw a little arrow. Okay, so what happened right before yelling and arguing with the teacher? Right, well, he lost the point, right? He didn't sit down. The teacher says, lose a point, right? You can kind of see where this is going. We'll finish this up, right? So right before that, you have any idea what's coming? What made him lose the point? Didn't get to his seat on time, right? So here's his chair. Right there. Slow to seat. Lose a point, right? Right before that, what happened? Well, he was out of his seat. Right, the teacher says, sit down. right before that, right? Bob's sort of doing okay, having a good time, playing around. And if we really want to, we can go maybe one more, right, where Bob says, no lunch, right? And really, if we really want to go, we could start at the very beginning, and Bob is having a good day. All right, so that's a lot, right? We drew a lot of different pictures. Sometimes you will need a whole lot of pictures. Sometimes you only need a couple, right? In this case, there's a lot of different things that happen. So that's the first step. So we drew out our situation. The next step is we're going to go through each square and decide how Bob was feeling at those times. So we're going to label them as either red, yellow, purple, or green, right? Just like the colors that we have. In this case, you have to forgive me, I don't have a yellow pen, so I'm using orange instead of yellow, but you'll get the point. So if we look down here, right, Bob's really mad, right? I'm assuming that Bob is red, so we can kind of put a red line on that one, right? Like, he's so mad, he's making mistakes, right? Call home, you check with Bob, like, he might be purple, he might be red. In this case, say, maybe he's already red. Okay, sent to the office, okay, maybe he's already red. Right? Now we go back here when he's yelling and arguing, right? So he's not quite red yet. He's purple, though, making some mistakes, right? And that's what made him yell. But he didn't go purple, let's say, until he got sent to the office. Now he loses a point. He's purple, right? Slow to his seat, right? He's a little mad at that point, so maybe he's still purple. When she tells him to sit down, right? That's purple. Playing around, he's actually having a good time, so maybe he's doing green right there. No lunch, not a big deal, but he didn't like it. Yellow, and before that, he's having a good day. So, went through and we labeled what color he is at in each square. All right, now this is the key. How is this going to help us? Well, now we can look and figure out all those places he could have done something different or should have done something different. Now, we could look down here and say that he couldn't have been mad, he should have just been serious and handled it differently, but he's red here, right? As we know, when you're red, you're not really in a situation to handle anything or do something better, right? So we're not even going to talk about that time, because once you're red, it's over. He's already in the big trouble. His parents are already getting called. You can't change that. But now up here in these places where he's purple, right, these are the times we're going to focus on, right? Because when you're purple, right, that's when something's going. So what we can look at is there's 4 different spots where he's purple. There's him yelling and arguing with the teacher, there's him losing a point, him slow to get to his seat, and him being told to sit down. So what we know is there's a couple different things. So right here, this first time, it's told to sit down, he goes purple, he's mad about it, right? Now what could he have done right in that moment, right? Well, he could have just sped up, right, and grabbed a seat. If that happened, he wouldn't have lost a point, he wouldn't have started arguing, and none of the rest would have happened, right? Okay, so that's the first place. That would be the best place to start. Okay, well, but maybe it happens after. So she's told to sit down, he's a little angry, he's slow to his seat, and he loses that point, right? He didn't take the time, he didn't speed up, he didn't take care of it. For whatever reason, he loses a point. Maybe even he couldn't get there fast enough. But he loses his point, now he gets all purple, and he starts yelling at his teacher. Right? And again, that's somewhere where he could have done something different. Maybe he needed to calm himself, take some deep breaths. Obviously, yelling and arguing didn't help him. Right? Maybe that's a place where you could say, hey, to the teacher, I'm getting a little upset. Can I just sit down for a second and get my thoughts straight? Or maybe he just says, okay, grabs a seat and doesn't let it become a bigger thing. Because losing a point is frustrating, but yelling, arguing, having your parents call, right, that's a lot worse, right? And sometimes the stuff that comes out of your mouth, there's even more consequences, right? So that's what we're talking about here. So what you're going to do in a minute is the similar process, right? So you're going to draw your own reflection. You're going to identify which parts are red, which parts are purple, and which parts are other colors, right? And then you're going to look at your triggers, okay? So the triggers, again, are looking at these scenarios that make you go purple, right? So if we're looking at this, I'm now going to pull this out. You're going to be doing it on a worksheet that looks like this, right? So it actually has boxes set up for you. Ideally, in a backwards reflection, you don't have boxes, right? Because you might need a lot more. If you notice on the one I did, right, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 boxes. This one only has 6, right? So I'd have to simplify a little bit to do this one. But when you fill this out, you're going to start in this back right corner, write a description, and then slowly go back. What happened right before that, that, all the way up into here. Okay, and then the other part is right here on the sheet. Can't probably read it here, but it says my triggers. What made me get worse? So this is when you're going to identify your triggers. What got you in trouble? So what are your triggers? Well, just wherever you went purple to red, right? Or sorry, change to a lower color, right? In this case, he went from green to yellow here. So one trigger, right? So one trigger would be not getting lunch. Alright? Now it seems like that didn't really mess with him because he went green after that. But then he's told to sit down and he gets mad. So another trigger is being called out by teacher. Alright? And then he's slow to his seat and he's purple, he loses a point, and this is where he really turns it red, right? Because he gets in this argument. Right, so maybe actually, if we really think about it, he's probably turning red around here. Right, he loses his point, and then he goes nuts. So, losing points, and maybe it's more than just losing points. He got mad because he lost a point for something he was doing. Right, losing points when trying to fix it. He was just too slow. Right. Okay, so that's a big trigger. Right, so we're just going to list these out. Right, use that for these moments. When we change, you're going to write 3 of your triggers, and we're going to stop there and kind of share out from there. Later on, we're going to go even further and look at what we can do by looking at these triggers, and again, talking about triggers some more, but looking at these things that start us feeling worse and see what we can do about it. Sort of the opposite of getting fueled. Like things that fuel you are what keep you from getting in trouble, right? What keep you at your best, right? In this case, if he had fueled himself with some lunch, maybe this other things wouldn't have happened. Right? But triggers are the things that do the opposite. These are these things, situations that pop up that make us do worse. So we're going to be working on that. So in the meantime, though, you're going to do your best. Try to do your own backwards reflection map. Fill this out. Fill out the boxes. Obviously, you shouldn't use a Sharpie because we don't use Sharpies here at Alpha for our work. You should be using a normal pen. I just use a Sharpie so you could actually see it on the video. So anyway, if you have any questions, just ask your teacher, and good luck. Looking forward to seeing your backwards reflection maps.